or the Bill of Rights is the biggest chapter in the Constitution of Kenya because there is a background to it. And, you know, at no point are we supposed to suspend constitutional guarantees. That is, you know, a right that is enshrined in the supreme law of the land. We understand, of course, where, like I said, where his, you know, statement is coming from. But at the end of the day, the police have a duty and responsibility to protect life and property. And that is their job. And they need to do that job as required by the law. But at the same time, they also have to be sure that they do not at any point suspend constitutional guarantees enshrined in the supreme law of the land. So I would say, in a nutshell, we were disappointed by his remarks. We felt that, you know, he went overboard, even though we understand the background of his remarks, but we feel they should have been more restrained, just as police action during protests and demonstrations should be restrained. And I think, you know, this comes as the Police Reforms Working Group. We've just released a statement this morning to communicate the same, that, you know, we cannot at any point in time suspend constitutional guarantees. But of course, we understand the statement that, you know, these protests, these demonstrations do not at any point allow any individual to engage in hooliganism, in vandalism, you know, in crimes of any kind. And that much we understand. But, as I said again, disappointed. Disappointed.
Good, sir. What do you make?
You know, Khalid is my friend for a long time. And every time, even when he had problems with police, he would come to me and I would sort him out. But I don't know whose rights he's fighting for. Whether he's fighting for the rights of over 50 million Kenyans or the rights of an individual who wants to remain relevant politically. That's my concern. Number one, Khalid is quite aware on procedures of demonstrations, picketing, and handing over of petitions to authorities. Number one, you know, it's laughable because I've seen in the media every time the Azimio team saying that they have notified the Inspector General. And they are aware of the procedures of Public Order Act because it is under the Public Order Act that we ensure that there is order in the society and on what we do. Because number one, the person you notify is the officer commanding police station of the jurisdiction that you want to undertake your processions or picketing or whatever it is, or public meetings. And therefore it means that for every jurisdiction, for example, if they are carrying out demonstrations in the whole country, then they have to notify officer commanding stations of those particular jurisdictions. Number two, they must inform them of the routes they want to take. If it is in Nairobi, you tell the police that we are going to start demonstrations at 7 or at 8 from this point to this point. And those things were done in Parliament long time ago. And that is how things are supposed to be, to ensure that there is order. So even if you look at the mode at which they are calling for this demonstration, there's disorder in it. But most importantly, even before we go for demonstrations, we should be asking ourselves, why are they demonstrating? What is the purpose? Because they are talking about high cost of living, they are talking about opening the server, and a number of issues that they have brought up. So we should first of all, Khalid, ask ourselves whether those reasons which they are bringing up are valid or invalid. Because you don't just say you have rights to do whatever you want and invoke the Constitution, which says that the demonstrations must be peaceful and must be unarmed. But all the same, there are also provisions on limitations, on rights and fundamental freedoms. And they are provided for in law. But what I can tell you for sure is just that an individual wants to make himself relevant for the 2027 elections. And that cannot be allowed because we cannot say that the cost of living is high, the economy is not doing well, and the actions we take are geared towards bringing the economy down. We have so many people, even tourists, who have cancelled coming into Kenya. We have so many shops which I'm sure are not going to be opened, and a number of issues. And we saw what happened on the other Monday. So I think as we go forward, Khalid, before we talk about demonstrations, let's discuss with Kenyans and find out, are these reasons for demonstrations valid? You know, I would not want to go to demonstrations before you convince me that we need to open a server somewhere, and equally that we need to, the high cost of living, because what I know is that even the price of unga has come down. And I have so many issues to discuss with you. So let's discuss that, then we can move forward.
All right, I was pulling up the Public Order Act, and we want, before we look at the reasons for the mandamano, the right itself, right? Because we're looking at freedoms and limitations.
Yes.
Where is the line? Article 37 of the Constitution states that assembly, demonstration, picketing, and petition, every person has the right peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. That is enshrined in the Constitution. But what I'm understanding, do I still use your rank?
No, don't use it. I don't know whether I have it or not. You go to, apart from that, then also go to Article 24.
Article 24 of the Constitution?
Yeah, D. And
all
look
right,
at
let's
what it says about limitations.
24D.
Yes.
Let us see. 24D states that the need, so limitations of rights and fundamental freedoms, the need to ensure that the enjoyment of rights and fundamental freedoms by any individual does not prejudice the rights and fundamental freedoms of others. And I'm still trying to get, I don't know why the Public Order Act, I had it open earlier, right now it's giving me a hard time, but I'm working on opening it.
Let's also look at Article 29. The right
Article
to security.
29
yes.
of the Constitution, all right. 29 deals with freedom and security of the person. Every person has the right to freedom and security of the person, which includes the right to be, the right not to be deprived of freedom arbitrarily and without just cause, detained without trial except during a state of emergency, in which case the detention is subject to Article 58, subjected to any form of violence from either public or private sources, subjected to torture in any manner, whether physical or psychological, subject to corporal punishment, or treated or punished in a cruel, inhumane, or degrading manner. Now, as I pull up the Public Order Act, you already have the notice that Azimio submitted to the authorities. Commissioner, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. How you doing?
Busy day?
Yeah, it's been quite a busy day all over the place, but it's good to be here.
All right. Well, I know the Commission called a press conference some time back and took issue with these demonstrations.
Yeah.
Does that remain your position?
It does to an extent, and the reason is a few. We had a few reasons, and it's remain the same. Because as a country, we had a peaceful election. You can remember that, the most peaceful election we ever had. And even after the election, we went through the process. Those who felt aggrieved went to court, and the court ruled, and we moved forward. And that's the constitutional way of doing things, which we fought for, and we had the Constitution. So 6 months later, 7 months later, taking us back to the campaign mode is not good for the peace or coalition of the country. Because for the most part, even if you look at, and we did a survey, even if you look at the places where you have called as strongholds, majority of people had already moved forward. They say, you know what, hey, we lost, whether right or wrong. They say, you know what, we got to move forward with our lives. So when you take the country back to a state of campaign now, which we were for 2 years, and politically speaking, our campaigns have a way of, apart from this time, which we put a lot of effort, have a way of disuniting us instead of bringing us together, has a way of driving wedges, either ethnically or in other means. So we say it's not good. Lastly, one of the reasons we were saying that is the other avenues of registering your grievances, okay? A demonstration should be the last part of it, okay? The last resort, okay? I've not been had, I've said 1, 2 things, I've not had. And if you look at if you don't really unpack all the demands that have been placed, some of them, quite frankly, are not reasonable, and so to speak, or even legal. I mean, if people have resigned from work, I mean, if I've resigned as a commission, you cannot force me back in. You understand? So we cannot say we are in the fallback. It's just not practical. It's not even legal, so to speak, because they were handled in a process that was legal, so to speak. Now, some of the grievances also that raised, whether it's the cost of living, it's a global phenomenon. I mean, headwinds are facing every country, and you need to take a big scope of things and look at, okay, is the current administration doing what it takes to do? Are they in the right track? I'll say, let me use an analogy, Olive, if you don't mind. whichever car you drive, you cannot, whatever, when you make a U-turn.
A bit.
Yeah, you drive a Vitz. Okay, so you drive a Vitz. Okay. If you make a U-turn on this street and you have a ship, a tanker, the amount of time it takes to make a U-turn and a tanker is very different. So the question we're asking is, have we made a U-turn? It's not whether we make a U-turn. A country is like a tanker. Is it in the process of making the right turn to the right direction? So you give them space and time, and that was the issue. So protest is a good thing. It's your right to do it, but it should be the last resort. Have you exhausted all the other avenues? Then you can say, no, I've done it, and nobody's listening to me. Now I'm picketing, and I'm going on the street.
All right.
Yeah.
We've been joined by another Wakili, this time James Mamboleo. Good morning.
All right, how are you?
Looking sharp.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll end up with Tiagas.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Good to have you in studio this morning. And we started off with the declaration yesterday by the Inspector General of Police, Japhet Kome, and he said, let me pull it up here. Okay, I seem to have lost. Oh, here it is. IG Kome bans Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance countrywide protests, and there has been debate on whether or not he possesses these powers. Now, Article 37 provides that every Kenyan has that right, but there are limitations, as has been pointed out by, let me just, Mr. Owino?
Yes.
Mr. Owino. He told me I'm not,